Good? Good? Is it just good? Good, not great? Great, not awesome? Awesome, not fantastic? Jacob, Pastor Jacob does that to me. Nobody's even listening, except maybe these three right here. Good admitting it, Destiny. Good admitting it. All right. Shh. All right. So, what did y'all... Hush. In the back row over there. 2 rows there. Thank you. All right. So, what did y'all learn about last week? Y'all remember? What was the topic? What about relationship? Principles, right? And so what commandment? Yes, but which one? Yeah. Anybody remember which commandment we talked about last week? That's one of the rules. That's technically not one of the commandments. One of the 10 commandments, technically speaking. Huh? Okay, well, I'm asking what commandment, right? There's 10 of them. Which commandment did y'all talk about last week? The first one, right. Anybody tell me what the first commandment is? Can anybody quote the first commandment for me? What does it start with? That's so funny. You shall have no other gods before me. Right. You shall have no other gods before me. Right. Okay. You shall have no other gods before me. And so today we're going to be continuing on in our relationship series, which is going through the 10 commandments. Okay. Huh? Exodus 20. All right. Cameron. Candy, forgetting it. I mean, you can have. You want 3 Musketeers or Milky? Okay. Your sister's going. Not your sister. Your girl's going to take it. I mean, you are. Technically speaking. All right. Anyways, so remember. There's a principle behind every one of these commandments that we're going to be going through over these next following today and then following 8 weeks. All right, there's a principle behind each of those commandments. It's not just a list of rules, a list of do's and don'ts. All right, but it is about relationship, which is why the series is called Relationship. All right, called Relationship because it's about relationship. All right, there's something behind every one of them that will help us to learn and have a deeper relationship with God, which is the point. All right. So everybody go ahead and stand for me. We're going to read Exodus 20, verses 4 through 6, which says, "You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down but to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the 3rd and 4th generations of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to the thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. All right, you can sit down. All right, so you can also find the 10 Commandments listed in Deuteronomy chapter 5. It's pretty much exactly the same. So what is the focus behind this second commandment? What's it dealing with? No idols. Good job, Cameron. I want interaction today. There's more candy to give out. All right. Okay. So what is an idol? What is an idol, Tierney? Essentially. That's one. That's one. I'll take one more. A definition of an idol. Anything that's similar with what Tierney said, but I'll give it to you. Wow, sorry. Well, Daniel, it wasn't for you anyway, so. All right. Woo! My stuff's trying to fly away. All right. So. Or actually, Cameron, can you reach for that switch and turn it down? No. Whoa, don't, whoa. What? It's blowing my papers away. To turn it down? Because I don't necessarily want it off. Okay, we'll just turn the fans off altogether. That's fine, whatever. All right. So, an idol, all right, so that's the basic definition, right, is an image or representation of a god used as an object of worship, okay? It was something that people believed in. It was a god that they really believed had a spirit, and it was used for worship and rituals and things, okay? And so what we're going to find that the second commandment boils down to is being pure, keeping yourself pure. All right, we're going to look at that here in Deuteronomy chapter 18. If you'll put that for me, please, Jacob. Deuteronomy 18, verses 9 through 14, which says, this is God talking to the Israelites, when you come into the land that the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not learn to follow the abominable practices of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone who burns his son or daughter as an offering, anyone who practices divination, tells fortunes, interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or a charmer, or a medium, or a necromancer, or one who inquires of the dead. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord your God is driving them out before you. You shall be blameless before the Lord your God, for these nations which you are about to dispossess, listen to fortune tellers and to diviners. But as for you, the Lord your God has not allowed you to do this. So, where were the Israelites? Where were they whenever they got back in right relationship with God? Or whenever, where were they enslaved at for a long time? Egypt, right? Egypt. Well, I don't have candy for that one. Okay, they were enslaved in Egypt. So then they got out of Egypt, and where were they supposed to go? Anybody know the name of the country? Somebody can give me the name of the country. Good job, Luke. All right, the name of the country, Canaan, okay? So, the land of Egypt, okay? Egypt was a land that had a lot of gods that they worshipped, okay? And so, the Israelites were not unfamiliar with this aspect of people having all of these different gods or things that they worshipped, okay? Not that they were doing it at that exact time, but they weren't unfamiliar with that because that was the kind of land they lived in. But now the land of Canaan, okay, this was a land of many idols. To note, two of them were Baal and Asheroth, were a couple of idols that they worshipped. All right, the Canaanites worshipped. And so the Canaanites were into all of these things that you find listed in... Oh, thank you. I didn't know we had that slide. Cool. Anyways, the Canaanites were into all of these things, right? They were sacrificing their children to these idols. They were interpreting omens and consulting sorcerers, telling fortunes. Okay, they were doing all these things that God was telling the Israelites, you're not supposed to do this. This is not what I want you to do. This is not what I have for you. Okay? Who can tell me what an impure solution is? It's an impure solution. Logan? No, just an impure solution. No, okay, I'm looking for the scientific definition. What is an impure solution? I was not expecting you to go with that. What? I saw Cameron's hand first.
That is what no shush, but that has other like things that isn't basically one simple like a solution of water is have straight water. A mixture of salt and water has a solution of salt. So
Thank you. You get a Milky Way this time. All right.
I don't care.
That was the example I had in here. All right. Okay. Right. So an impure solution, for those science people, is a solution that is mixed. All right. It's not just one thing. Water would be a pure solution. Salt water would be impure. Okay. Be impure. So. I don't think you're thinking on the same lines as me right now, Luke, but we can talk about that after. All right. So the Israelites, so they get to Canaan, all right, and they are a people that are trying to walk with God. All right. They really are trying to walk with God. They're walking in right relationship with God. Now, they've had some troubles throughout their time in the wilderness. All right. If you read through the Torah, you can see there's a lot of issues that they had getting to Canaan. However, they did start out, but then they did get distracted with the idols of the land. Unfortunately, they did not do what God told them to do, which was to what? No, not to ignore them. Well, not leadership. What were the Israelites supposed to do to the people of the land? No. Kick them out. Get rid of them, okay? They were supposed to get them out of the land. They were supposed to dispossess them from the land of Canaan because God had ordained that land to be for the Israelites. All right, so they were supposed to get all of them out of there, and then they would be taking over that land, and they would be serving the Lord our God, keeping their eyes on Him with no distractions, right? How many of you are easily distracted? Just about every single hand in here should go up, right? Easily distracted, okay? Be no distractions. But unfortunately, the Israelites got in there and they dispossessed some people, but they didn't finish the task. They did not finish the task. They finished it enough to get into the land and to get their own land and to be able to have space, and then they kind of stopped. And you can read in Judges. Actually, if you'll put up Judges 3:7, and Judges is like a sad book to read, just watching the Israelites over and over again make these bad choices. But in Judges 3, verse 7, it says, the people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. They forgot their Lord their God, and they served the Baals and the Asherah. They did evil. All right. Kaylee, can you put that down and face forward, please? So they lost sight of Him, and they left Him. They pursued these idols, and they started doing all these terrible things. They were sacrificing their children. They were practicing divination and consulting sorcerers and doing these things that God had told them not to do. Does it relate? Okay. I wouldn't say that relates, but you can ask after. All right. So they did evil, all right, and then so their society changed because they were allowing the people of the land to affect how they were living. They were allowing the things of the idols and things to affect them, and so their society changed. Okay, and so that's what happens whenever we get stuck in idol worship. All right, when these people got stuck in idol worship, it can take us away from God. All right, it doesn't bring us closer to God. It takes us away from God, brings us out of a relationship with God, and walks us more into being the naturally evil and wicked people that we are without God, without Jesus. We're just an evil, wicked people. All right, we need Jesus, so we need a relationship with God. All right. So we have to be on guard for these things. We have to watch out for that so that we're not walking in that. All right. So, are you pure or are you impure? All right? That's just a rhetorical question, okay? Are you pure or are you impure? I want you to think about that as we go through these. All right, and the message tonight is simply pure. If you put a slide, yeah. All right, now go to slide 1. All right, so my first point is we don't need idols. All right, the people would think that they needed these idols to fulfill them, to bring them things, to be able to bless their lands, help their harvests do better, all sorts of things. Okay, that's what they thought. The god of Baal, or not the god of Baal, the god Baal that people worship was considered the god of weather, and so they would worship him to help make their weather be better when it came to their crops. So they bring rain when they need rain, and keep it nice and sunny when they need it sunny. Things like that. They really would hold on to that. Okay. And so then they would make this image. But it says, what we saw in 20 verse 4, which says, you shall not make for yourself a carved image, or anything, any likeness of anything on the that is in heaven above, or earth beneath, or in the water under the earth. The big thing is God doesn't want us to get stuck in focus on here. All right, we are meant to live here in the world, right? Going out into the nations and discipling and bringing people into the kingdom of God, right? But we're not supposed to be so focused on here that we forget about the bigger picture and that we don't belong here as Christians. If you've given your life to Jesus, you've asked him into your heart, and you've become a Christian, your home is heaven. That's where you'll go one day, is you'll go to heaven, right? And that is something to look forward to, okay? So we live here seeking to do those things for God, but we're not supposed to be so focused on here that we forget about where we're going, okay? And what the real important aspect of that is, okay? Trying to watch time, because I can talk. Yeah. All right, can you go ahead and put on my next slide for me? So we're going to look at the results of impurity. Okay, we're going to move down to the results of impurity. Exodus 25, which says, you shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. How many of you struggle with jealousy? I'm a very jealous person. I'm a very jealous person. Very jealous person. All right, I really struggle with it. All right, so God is a jealous God. He does not want us to share, all right, our affections with, especially with gods that don't exist, right? We are not supposed to be putting other things above him, okay? And so we need to be careful of that. God says don't have idols because he's jealous. If you do, then you have the effect of you and for your generations following you having impurities. Iniquities, I mean. The word I meant to use. Now the focus here in this particular moment in history, all right, we look at when God is addressing this with the Israelites, all right, is that whenever it came to the judgment, there would be judgment that would happen on a national scale. It would affect everyone. So if all of them were going and following after idolatry, it affected it affected 3 or 4 generations. Again, you can see that in Judges if you read the book of Judges. The people would fall away, and it would affect them for 2 or 3 generations before they finally would be like, oh, Lord, help us. Please help us. They would finally go back to God, and they did that over and over and over again. Okay? But there's a principle behind this commandment, right? That's the focus today, is that we have a principle behind the commandment. And so does anybody know what he means by iniquity? Maybe want to give it an idea what he means by iniquity? Or even what iniquity is? Do you know what it means, Tierney? No? So it's a word in the Hebrew which means avon, or is avon, and it means perversity, depravity, punishment for doing wrong. There are consequences for going against God. All right, now God doesn't cause, like if you walk away from God and you're doing the things you want to do and you have bad things happen to you because of your actions, God is not causing these bad things to happen to you. Okay? If you go and you get drunk, which none of you should be, if you go and get drunk and you get behind the wheel of a car and you have a really bad accident and now you've got this crazy fine and you've lost your license and you're facing a lot of charges, God is not doing that to you, right? Because who chose to get drunk? Who chose to get behind a wheel? Destiny said her, right? No. But I get it. You know, you were going like, woo! Right. Okay? And so that kind of thing, all right, so it's one of those things that it affects you. You can have consequences. We have consequences for not following God and not doing things the way that we're supposed to be doing them. Okay? Shh. But it's not fair for us to blame God for the consequences that happen to us because of our actions. Okay? And some actions can affect your children. If you choose to follow God, you choose to serve God, and then you marry somebody who also is serving God, that has a major impact on your children. Because then that has a higher chance for your children then to serve God. And then your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, okay, because of your faithfulness and your choosing to chase after that. And the other side is true, that if you choose to just forget you, God, I don't want anything to do with you, God, and you're someone that deals with addiction or drunkenness or anything like that, that kind of stuff can affect your children. All right. Oftentimes, someone who struggles with addiction, it's because they had a family member that struggled with addiction. All right. That struggles with things that are bad for you. It's because they had a family member, a close family member that struggled with that. And it affects them. And if they don't choose to break that cycle, then it'll affect their children too. Okay. It can be easy to try to go against God and do things our own way. All right? To do things our own way, especially when you're like, I don't know what we're doing, God. I don't know what the next step is, so I'm just gonna take the reins from here and I'm gonna handle it myself. That's really tempting to do. Yes, Cameron? Yes. I got to walk in front of me. All right. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. We're going to wrap this up. So what is the result then of purity? All right. Exodus 20, verse 6. But showing steadfast love to the thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. As I already touched on, when you choose to follow God and seek after him, there is a higher chance that your children will choose to chase God and follow after him, and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. And then you also have the opportunity of impacting the people around you, right? Your family, your parents, your grandparents, your cousins, your siblings, right? Who in here doesn't have a sibling?
I have 17 now. So.
Whatever. Carter, you have a brother. Don't even. I'm the only one that doesn't have a sibling, right? So everybody in here, everyone in here has an opportunity with their sibling to be able to impact them, okay, in a way for God, okay? So, we have to love him, and we have to keep his commandments as we continue to go through them. And, there's, how many commandments are there? Can anybody tell me what the number is? No, total. I'm not talking about 10 commandments. What? Good job, Luke. And that's for Luke, but good catch, Dan. Yep, 613 commandments, 613 rules that we were supposed to follow. Okay, things are different now. It's another conversation for another time. All right. Yes, but anyways, that's a conversation for another time. Right. So, how do we, based on this commandment, all right, how is it that we love God and keep his commandments? Based on the command we're talking today. How do we love God and keep his commandments? By what's the commandment? What's the commandment we're talking about tonight? Not having an idol, right? I know, I worded that really funky, guys. I'm sorry. All right. So we don't take up idols, which, all right, now, none of y'all have a golden calf, I'm sure, that you worship and dance around at night. I don't think any of y'all have a carved image of Baal or Asheroth or Dagon either. Okay? However, how many of you have a phone? Go ahead and put it up in the air. Just put it up in the air if you have a phone. I'm going to tell you right now. Shh. I'm going to tell you right now, that little device in your hand can become an idol so quick. All right? Because, all right, so those of you who don't have phones, you don't have your own phone, listen. That's probably good. Because it can be a real distraction, okay? Because that phone, all right, nowadays, you can do what on it? You can watch YouTube. You can watch TikTok, all right? People can watch porn, okay? Let's draw it in here. You can watch porn on your phone. All right, it used to be you had to go to a computer or you had to go to the store and get movies and buy magazines and things, okay? But now, all you have to do is just search an address on your phone. And it's that easy. All right? And that is something that can cause you to put things ahead of God. That then, like the Israelites, you're getting distracted and you're spending all your time. And I know I went really extreme with the porn comparison. All right, but even talking to your friends. How many of you spend multiple hours a day on TikTok? Multiple hours a day on Snapchat? Multiple hours a day on YouTube? I can spend a lot of time on YouTube. I like watching YouTube. Okay? On your phones. All right? The phone is your biggest opportunity of walking into an idol situation. Okay? Where you are putting something ahead of God. In fact, a show that Jacob and I have watched, one of the characters at one point, he's trying to be a part of this trivia team. And they're not supposed to have their phones for the trivia because they don't want you looking it up and stuff. So he's like, I got to take your phone. I got to take your phone, right? And so the guy's like, okay, he gives me his phone. And within 30 seconds, he's like, I can't be without my phone, guys. And he quits. Just that fast because he cannot stand to be away from his phone. Listen, the same thing could be true of video games. All right? Your game consoles. Okay? It can be very easy to put things ahead of God. And when you put something ahead of God, it becomes an idol. Relationships. Boyfriends and girlfriends. I'm going to use Destiny and Cameron here as an example because they're right here in the front. If Cameron starts putting Destiny ahead of God, he doesn't ever spend time with God. He just always wants to talk to Destiny. And he can't get that straight. Then he should end the relationship until he can prioritize God properly. Because Destiny she can't be on a pedestal, okay? She's not made to handle that. The people in your lives, your boyfriends, girlfriends, friends, people you like, they cannot handle being the entirety of your focus. They're going to fail you. They're not going to measure up. They never will. All right? They can't. Only God can be in that place. And that's why it's important we understand that we have no other God before him, but we also don't put anything else before him either. All right? So, as we close, or as we get ready, if you go ahead and start playing that song for me, please, Jacob. Nothing else is more important than God.